Well, that was all very, very nice, wasn't it? Beaumont Road, Northern Sydney Cycling Club's crit, won by Matt Dinham. Look, I will come back to that. I've been meaning to do this for a while, do a little bit of a sort of techie one, a recap on a few things. Specifically, I want to cover cameras, bike cameras and bike computers sort of together, how they combine, and power meters. Now, if you want to skip to one particular part of this, I'll do the where they appear, because I don't know where they appear yet, because I haven't done it. So I'll do that somewhere. Let's start with cameras. I am asked all the time, what camera would I recommend for people riding around, wanting to capture some footage of their mates, putting a few bits and pieces together to show the kind of riding that they do. And the obvious choices that people choose from are their phone and or a GoPro or some sort of action cam. They see me running that Sony RX0 which shoots that beautiful, beautiful footage a lot of the time, but they look at me running that camera going, I'm not carrying a bloody big camera around. That whole sequence at the beginning of the vlog, the Bowie Road sequence, I know, standard Millery stuff, bit of slow-mo, bit of bike cameras, seen it all before. Aha! But have you seen it all before? We kind of had. But the whole thing was shot on that. What is it, you ask? Well, I actually don't know. Well, I know what it's called. It's called the Sony RX0. The best camera and the worst camera you can possibly own. I've never tried to talk about something that has such clear positives and clear negatives before. What does it do well and what does it do badly? Well, what it does well is, you just saw that. Like this tiny little box, this neat little box just shot all that stuff. And look, I could sit here and tell you that that's because it shoots incredibly high frame rate, it has a 1-inch sensor, it allows you to color grade, which it all does. And there are millions of videos out there that will, if you search for that, will tell you that it has those specifications. But when you are physically riding a bike, what good is that? Well, you just saw that. The reason this is so good is it is mind-numbingly frustrating to use. Okay, you pick that up and you just think, oh, it's a GoPro, right. Do what I do with a GoPro, just point it around the place and try and get some footage. This will shoot the worst footage you have ever shot. I'm sure I can cut something in here. If you try and use it like that. You have to use this like you would a professional camera. Just like with the proper camera, you got to think about the shot, you got to think about the lighting, you got to think about the framing. Now, that's going to turn a lot of people off. It almost turned me off, to be brutally honest. But with that level of thought comes an amount of creativity and a level of shot you can't get on the action cam normally. All GoPro footage really starts looking the same. That's not a bad thing, it does what it does. But the reason I'm actually kind of excited about this thing is it's opening up a few different doors. I haven't really scratched the surface of what you can do with this yet, which is kind of exciting. I'm not running any accessories, I'm just putting in my back pocket and sort of seeing what I can come up with. This is not a on-bike camera in my opinion. The big downside of this particular camera is it has no image stabilization. So if you don't know what that means, it just means everything you shoot is going to be shaky. So put this on your bike and you go over a rough road, no, it's going to be terrible. That's obviously where people start using accessories and that sort of stuff, but I'm going to challenge myself not to do that. This is all going to be handheld. This is all going to be used pretty much while training as hard as I can and see what I can come up with.
I don't consider myself an expert in anything, but I reckon the closest I've ever come is this. Bike computers and cameras, how they work together and what the best solution is, because at this stage, I have pretty much tried everything. What I want to talk about here, what is the best actual combination for riding bikes? Weight. I've weighed them all, because that's what you do, you go, and I've like weighed the whole thing. So the mount, the camera, the thing, all that kind of stuff. The lightest solution is the lightest solution.
The Nano.
The Nano. The lightest solution's the Session. That's with the cage. Hero 6 is the heaviest, and right bang in the middle is the Sony Action Cam. It's just light enough for me to ride away from those guys. Where weight might not be an issue, I reckon the form and functionality is the biggest one. How it looks, how aero it is. And I'm talking about front mounts. Rear mounts definitely like are the best, neater solution, but run a rear mount, you can't really run a saddlebag. And footage wise, it doesn't really give you a great perspective what's going on. The form of the GoPro Session and the normal are pretty similar, like pretty good. The good thing with the Session is you can take it off and back on, so if you're riding, you can actually grab it out of that little cage and use it as a bike camera to get a bit of different footage. But what I really like about this is just how neat it is and the functionality. I can turn this off and on so easily. Guys, it's the accuracy of the GPS of these two devices that kind of sets them apart for me. Look, the Bolt, obviously, it does a great job. The GoPros, they have GPS built in, but for some reason, they don't seem to be as sharp at actually picking up the exact point. What does that mean? Well, you're interested in kind of putting that power data and stuff in. It just makes life so much easier. Let me show you.
It's really a two-step process. You're getting the file off your bike computer and syncing it to your camera. Most of them upload to your fitness site. You can go onto the fitness site and actually physically grab the original file, which I'm just doing here. Come back into the Garmin Verb software, and I've imported a clip from the camera. Drag it down to the timeline as you normally would. And this is where I'd start to go and sync the data. So let's go ahead and sync the data to it. What I'm going to do is go import geometrics, which is the file, go and actually select that file from the computer, uploads, and there's the 3-4 hour ride, all ready for me to go. Hit use this log, come back into the file, and hey presto, I am synced to the moment of our pathetic little sprint off. Let me show you what a bad GPS looks like and how this was the Eastern Creek race a couple of weeks ago, and this is why I didn't do a vlog from it, because look at that, at Eastern Creek with all those dropouts.
What the Action Cam also does really nicely is instead of, with the GoPros how it can chop your footage up into like 13-minute, 9-minute segments. It depends on what frame rate and stuff you use, but it chops it all up. With that Bowie Crit, there was 2 files. So all you're doing is syncing 2 files, and obviously I'll show you how easy the syncing is. Again, speeds up the workflow and you're not kind of having to chop it all together, which was really nice. Quick note, it does depend on the frame rate and the quality. The more you bump the frame rate up, the more it will chop it up. That goes for all the devices. Lastly, power meters. In the worst kept secret, yes, I am now running a Shimano power meter, which obviously I'll review, talk about in the next couple of weeks, months. Kind of brings me to a point. It's up at Bowie on the weekend. So this guy came up to me and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm calibrating my power meter." And he went, "You're watting your power meter?" What is calibration, you ask?
So it's basically like pressing the tear button on your scales.
Yeah.
So your power meter knows what's happening when there's no torque being applied, and then everything else is relevant to that point. When you do your calibration through your head unit, it'll spit out a number, the 0 offset number, and it's just a good habit to keep track of that. It will vary around, so for example on this Quark it's between sort of 80 and 90 usually. So one day if I wake up and I do the 0 offset and it comes up as minus 300, there's obviously an issue there, and that way you know. I think we've all had those days where you go out and your power numbers are super high and you kill all your PBs and you're wondering what's happened that session. The 0 offset number is the easiest way to know if there might be an issue with your power meter. I don't want it to sound like I'm ranting on about it, because if you do your 0 offset regularly, it's fine. I'm not telling you anything new. It's for the people that, when I say 0 offset, have no idea what I'm talking about. That's an issue, and once they get on top of it and they make it a part of their ride schedule, then it's all sorted.
We are in Bathurst this weekend. Well, Unfortunately, they're not, but the team is. So if you do see the jersey, you see the car, you see the bike, make sure you do say hello. Actually, go ahead and just shout, "Are you Chris Miller?" Most of the guys absolutely love it when people do that.
Let me know via a thumbs up down below whether you reckon this tech stuff's any worthwhile. I like tech, I like talking about tech. I'm kind of somewhat obsessed with it. So I do waste a bit of time looking into it, and it would be super cool to be able to build some of that into this channel. But if it's crap, let me know. Pop a comment below. Specifically, if there's any questions about what we talked about today, or maybe some tech you want me to talk about in the future. I'll leave you with this. I was riding with Robbie and Jesse the other day and doing some of my intervals. I said, "Robbie, here you go, take the camera for a bit and do something." Robbie took the camera and he did something. This is what he did.
So while Chris and Jesse are off doing their efforts, I guess I'll do a little introduction. I'm Robbie, 15 years old, and it's my first year on Nero. I can't do all of the NRS races, so for me it's more about just kind of messing around with the dudes, training with them, and learning as much as I can. My Garmin pedals broke the other day, so no more power. And it actually feels quite nice to detach yourself from the numbers a little bit.